Hi and welcome to my very first YouTube video. I'm Corby and I'm pretty obsessed with books. That's mainly why I started this YouTube channel, so I can ramble about books to you guys. So let me start with introducing myself a little bit. I'm 26 years old and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from the Netherlands. I've been reading for a little bit over a year now, I believe. I've got a sweet cat. Her name is Freya. She's a little bit over 2 years old now. She's a Maine Coon and she loves to lay on my lap while I'm reading, and I love her with my whole heart. So let's get into the actual video. I'll be talking about most of my favorite books of last year. It'll be a lot of 5 stars, but also a few 4 and 4.5 star books as well, because I thought they deserved a place on my list as well. Let me specify beforehand though that I won't be ranking them from best to worst or anything. It's more like beginning to end of the year. So first up, as you can probably already tell, is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this book 5 stars. I must say that I actually read A Court of Thorns and Roses as first book of the year and I rated it 5 stars as well, though I listened to it on audio again at the end of the year, and I must say I probably wouldn't rate it 5 stars anymore. This one I would still rate 5 stars though. I'm not going to ramble too much about this book because if you're a little bit in the book community, you probably heard a lot about this already, and I also wouldn't really want to spoil anything if you haven't yet, because of course this is the second book in the series. I think my favorite part about this is mostly how the romance developed and how much little things she connected from this book to the first book. This book actually also made me cry, which was quite a weird experience because this is the 5th book I've read in like my whole life. So it says a lot about it, I think. Next up is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I gave this one 5 stars as well. It's part of a series which isn't completed yet. This is the first book in the series. It's a high fantasy dark academia book. Also the first dark academia book I've read so far. Do keep in mind, if you would like to read this book, that I would recommend to look up trigger warnings beforehand, because I think it has quite a lot. I really enjoyed the dark aspects of this book, but I can also get it if you wouldn't, so keep that in mind. Next up is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I gave this book 5 stars as well. It's mainly about people making a video game, so I think that's mainly why I liked it so much, because I game a lot as well. Though it also talks a little bit about disability, failure, and it also has a teeny tiny bit of love in it as well. If you're looking for a fast-paced read, I would really recommend this one. Next up is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is the first book in the trilogy and this was my favorite as well. I gave this 5 stars. I won't say too much about this story though, because I think I enjoyed it more because I went into it blind. Just know it's a young adult fantasy with a lot of magical aspects to it. I think her writing in this book was also really magical. She described the scenery and the dresses so beautifully. Then we have Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the series and actually the only one I've read so far. I mostly listened to it on audio, but I also read a little bit in the book. I gave this 4.5 stars. It's a fantasy and sci-fi young adult book, I believe. I'm actually not the biggest sci-fi fan myself. All of the books I've read and almost all of the movies I watched, I didn't really enjoy in the genre, but I think it says enough that I enjoyed this so much. Even though it's a sci-fi, it says enough about the story and how good it actually is. Next, we have the reappearance of Rachel Price. This is actually the newest release by Holly Jackson and it's also the first Holly Jackson book I read. I gave it 4.5 stars. I know a lot of people didn't really enjoy this book that much, or at least not compared to her other books. A lot of people said this was their least favorite by her, but I actually ate it up. So it only got me more excited to try out more books by Holly Jackson. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, 5 stars. I don't think I have to say too much about this book as well because it's really popular in the book community as well. But if you don't know it, it's like a fantasy book about a war college for dragon riders. It was a great read. I love the adventure and the romance in it so much, and I think my favorite aspects would be the dragons and how like the riders could like through telekinesis, like through their mind could talk to their dragons. I ate that up. Next up we have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I gave this book 4 stars. This is the first cozy fantasy that I read. If you're looking for a high fantasy but with low stakes, this is your book. Next up is Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. I gave this 4 stars. At the time I was almost giving up on romance books. I've read a few before this and I just didn't really connect with the genre. I didn't really get the enjoyment that I usually get out of books. They were alright, but it just didn't click with me. And Ellie Hazelwood actually changed that. I just love the connections between the characters and the love that they have for each other. I don't know. It was just a really silly, funny read for me, and this is actually the book that convinced me to keep on reading romance books. 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Again, I gave this book 5 stars. In comparison to the reappearance of Rachel Price, I did enjoy this one a little bit better. I just think the writing in this one was just a little bit better and I liked the story a bit more as well. It was about 6 friends that go on a road trip and 5 only survive. If you're looking for like a thriller that isn't too scary, I would recommend this book. Next up we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I've got a really pretty edition of this book as well. I got it from Kingdom Book Designs, I believe. I'll link the shop down below. This is a fantasy book, a really whimsical one. It's about Emily Wilde, who goes to like a village to research the Fae over there, and she's most obviously writing an encyclopedia about the fairy lore. I won't go much into detail because I don't want to spoil the story or anything, but it's just a really whimsical read and it was just a really heartwarming story. The only reason why I couldn't really give it 5 stars for me was that I couldn't really binge read the book, and if I enjoy a book a lot, I usually can, but I just couldn't with this one, so it was just a little bit short of the 5 star for me. I do have to say that I'm obsessed with the series. I love the characters and I love the story overall, so I would really recommend it. And then last but not least, we have The Coolest Girl in Cool Town by Holly Black. I think the author is most known for the Cruel Prince trilogy, which I do still want to read, but this was the book I had at home already from her, so I started reading this one. I got a pretty fairy loot edition of this one as well. It's a vampire book, and for me it was mostly just a silly, funny read. I love vampires, so I just loved the book. I gave it 4 stars. If you're looking for like just a silly, fun read, and you also like the aspect of a little bit of gore and vampires, I would really recommend this book. So that concludes my 12 favorite books of 2024. If any of these books were one of your favorites as well, please leave a comment down below and leave a thumbs up if you liked the video. And if you'd like to see more of me, don't forget to subscribe. Bye!